Man, are there comments to read these days, Casey?
Boy, oh boy, we are going off like a firecracker. Let me tell you what.
We're gonna take. Let me take you guys behind the curtain a little bit into the production stylings of the 40k Fanatics podcast that you are listening. I'm Shane. That's Casey.
We're gonna give you a peek behind the veil.
Yes. So every Friday morning, the podcast comes out on all of the podcast apps, and then Casey finds time between his wife and his child and his regular people boring job / life. I kid. And he gets a YouTube video together. And it's a video in the loosest terms. But then it goes out someday on the YouTube. And then something like 100 times the amount of people that listen on Spotify and the like proceed to listen to us on YouTube. So we have about a week of lag before we see the YouTube comments. So last week, we didn't have any comments to read from the week before, but now we've seen what you all have to say. And we're hardly going to talk about it at all, but it's very, very spicy over there. Oh, it's so spicy. Some of y'all got mad.
Some people got mad. Some people liked us. Some people insulted us. Some people came up with conspiracies.
Let's be clear. Everybody was mad at your boy. They were mad at me. Nearly all of the negativity and criticism fell soundly on my head. But I, as I've said before, have a lot of sociopathic tendencies, and so I absolutely am here for it. Now,
hitting the player and the game.
We're not gonna give a lot of air to these comments particularly. We're not gonna respond directly. The people that were kind enough to write long form responses to what we talked about, we appreciate you. Go make your own podcast if you don't like this one. I'm not gonna listen to it.
Yeah.
But I do see what you're saying. There is one that I would like to point out, though. All right? And in case you don't know, the topic of that garnered so much engagement was about the female custodies and about how I said that a lot of that controversy comes from non-serious places on the internet, like this one. But there was one that I saw, and it was all caps, and it said, "Make 40k right wing." And to that, I have to tell the people.
Yeah, it was very weird.
Well,
people went very political.
40k is right wing at my house.
I saw it. Like, yeah. Oh, well, I'm...
Get closer to the microphone.
Oh, closer to the microphone.
I keep trying to give this guy hand signals. He's not reading me. But, yes, the 40k is right wing at Shane's house.
I can't pat my head or rub my stomach at the same time either.
On to the next thing. So what we're going to do going forward is we're going to try to clean up the YouTube workflow. And we're going to try to get that to you sooner.
Yeah, try to streamline it a bit.
Yeah, we're going to try to get it to you maybe on the weekend along with the main podcast. And that way everybody can
have the free time to enjoy us.
And have, then we can get our feedback loop faster so that we can talk about...
Come up with more creative ways to hate us.
That's right. And we can more readily respond to your diatribes. But I feel like there was one other thing that we had to talk about to the people, but I think that might have covered it.
Was the price jump?
We do have to cover the price jump.
There was a price jump this week.
Well, it's not here yet. The price jump is, I believe...
announced this week.
Yes, it was announced. The GW is going to get more of your money for their plastic drugs. How do you feel about this, Casey?
Well, I can't... Already owning an army kind of takes the perspective away from for you a little bit because you've already got your stuff, but I like to think about this. One of the first things that I bought was a unit of Gretchen. $12 in my local hobby shop. Cut to now, I believe those Gretchen are in somewhere around $25, $30. And are now about to get even more expensive. And that was only 4 years.
Do you feel...
Wow.
Do you feel that it being $30, like let's say you've never seen it before, and you were going to go and buy that same unit of Gretchen and it said $30 on the front, do you think that would stop you?
Oh, man. From my perspective, I think it might.
I don't think
I was a broke college kid at that point.
Yeah, I don't. Here's my thing. I don't think it would stop you. One, gas is almost $4, so
Gosh, yeah.
you're used to getting reamed out. Number two is those Gretchen probably looked attractive because they were maybe the cheapest thing on the shelf, and there were $80 things and $100 things and $40 things, right?
Yep, 100%.
They're still.
I knew there were going to be cheap units and bad units. I still got them. You know,
right. What I'm saying is that $30 is still the cheapest thing on the shelf compared to 50 and 80 and 120. And
inflation's been bad.
Right. But what I mean is at either point in the past or now, you decided I'm going to dip my toe in this hobby where I see that some of this plastic toy is $120.
Yeah.
And I think that people are still doing that same calculus, which is like, this is obviously an expensive thing to do.
And people at random points in their lives do have, you know, a sudden influx of cash. Sometimes it's not a lot. You know, you have a yard sale, or maybe you find $20 on the sidewalk, and then you walk into your local hobby shop like, hey, I've got something, you know? And you yourself, you go by that rule of cool. You don't plan to buy anything. You just walk into the hobby shop, pick it up off the shelf, and I'm like, wow, this is spiky. I really like it. It's going home with me.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to speak from some wild privilege throughout this discussion because I don't. To a point, I'm 36, folks, and I haven't had a real job since I was 22. And it's all just like I'm going to go play piano or run a karaoke show once or twice a week, and that's it. I carry no debt. I own my house. Like
he does.
So while I sometimes have some financial stress where I've got it in my mind, I don't actually care what anything costs. Now,
it's all about your passion, people.
Well, there's a method to the madness. I'm going to get real Susie Orman on you guys here for a moment.
Break out the soapbox.
The way that I've been able to do that and have that lifestyle is not that someone left me a huge amount of money or anything like that. I don't make a lot of money, but the things that I choose to spend on are relatively very inexpensive.
Didn't somebody ask you the other day if you make a lot of money doing what you do? And you were like, no.
No, not really. Like compared to say doctor lawyer money, absolutely not. I'm somewhere in shift leader at a McDonald's money.
Yeah, you're fine.
Here's the thing. You can do all this stuff if your tastes are for things like $2,000 vehicles.
Okay, yeah, that's me.
$50,000 houses.
More you.
No interest whatsoever in boats, motorcycles, riding lawnmowers.
Because this is your boat, motorcycle.
Exactly. 40K is my boat, motorcycle, nice riding lawnmower. I have a friend, and her boyfriend recently decided he wanted a side-by-side. They don't listen to the show, but
they should.
They should. Everyone should listen to the show. The show is for everyone. We please everyone at 40K Fanatics. That's not what we do. Some of y'all mad, and I like it. But her mans went to the place to buy the side-by-sides and spent $35,000.
Ooh.
Making payments.
Okay.
For a toy.
That's fair.
Folks, that's like, she told me payment worked out to like $525 a month for this toy for the next 5-6 years. Do you know how much 40K you could buy?
Yeah.
If you budgeted in $525 a month in perpetuity.
That's like an eBay army a month.
It's like a painted army a month.
Yeah, painted eBay army.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
But there are people whose fun...
That's an army plus sending it off to somebody else to paint it.
It's...
Come at me. I'm on Instagram. Hit me up. I'll paint your stuff. Let's go.
I might paint your stuff too, but nobody remembers that I paint. I'm not bitter about it.
Holler at your boy.
But what I'm saying is, in the grand scheme of things, 40K is getting more expensive, but everything's getting more expensive. And for your fun, you could do a lot worse.
Fair. You could be into drugs.
You could be into drugs.
Shout out to all those Emperor's children out there. Kane, how you doing?
Oh my gosh. Disclaimer, Kane is not actually on drugs.
No. I didn't mean to imply he's on drugs. No. It's just an Emperor's Children jokes for all you lore heads out there. But, yeah, you could be into so many worse things. There is a reason why they call this plastic crack after all.
Yeah, but look, it's way cheaper than an actual crack habit. It just is. And I don't...
And you're putting something out there into the universe. If you really think about it.
Yeah, there's something to like...
You can hold it in your hand.
Exactly. Because, I mean, there are people that are spending hundreds of dollars a month on Fortnite V-Bucks.
Right? Yeah, look, me and Shane are at the point in our lives where, you know, we had fun playing video games growing up. We played video games in our 20s, maybe in our teens, but now we're 30. Our time's pretty valuable, man. We can't spend like 150 hours on a video game and then be like really proud of it. Like we used to. You know, we're the Crypt Keeper's coming.
You know what I like about you, Casey?
What do you like about me? Is it my frugality?
No.
My essence of life?
It's your everymanism. Because I do still have time to put 150 hours into a video game.
Oh my god. Did you just call me the male version of a basic?
No, it's the whole reason why this podcast works is all those negative comments that you guys need to go and look at. Argue with those people, please. We need more engagement. They were all mad at me.
Yeah.
They like you. They wonder why you keep me around.
I am Tim the Toolman Taylor.
But we'll see what the feedback is on these comments about the price increase, and we may talk more about it in the future. Maybe I can put you guys on game on my plan to wealth management. It's worked good for me, and therefore it must be the only way to possibly do it.
Stay on that grind set.
Or do as little as possible.
There you go.
For as much as you can charge.
So, back to it. Shane, do you want us to open up that bits box?
It feels like it's about that time.
All right.
Casey, what have you done in the hobby this week?
Boy, oh boy, you're looking at some of it right now. I cleaned up my paint desk. It is looking immaculate. You are no longer stepping over things. It feels great.
It is still dark in here.
It is kind of dark in here, but I have also assembled the entire Space Marine board game box set.
I like it.
It looks neat.
Have you ever painted a bug before?
I have painted, I think, like one Tyranid before. It was one of my very first minis.
The Space Marine board game that he's talking about has got the one solitary character Space Marine versus a bunch of Termagants.
Yes, Lieutenant Titus versus 2 Ripper Swarms and 2 Termagants. Yeah, a bunch like I think there's like 20 in there.
This is the Target exclusive board game box. I'm not sure how much game there is to it, but we do intend to play it sometime soon, especially now that it's assembled.
Cut out, comes with dice and a rule book. We'll do it. And if we don't, we could always sell the minis on eBay for you guys.
Or you could start a Tyranid army.
You know, I've been trying to dip my wife into 40k, and she says either Necrons or Tyranids are her jam.
Either way, you're bringing 100 of them.
That's a Xenos family for you. I'm bringing the green tide. She's bringing the purple.
I don't know what do they call the
crush.
Yeah, what do they call the Tyranid?
The Great Devourer.
That's it.
The Great Devourer. Yeah. I also finished up 6 Primaris Eradicators in the Alpha Legion colors, as well as a Land Raider with dual ass cannons in the black and dark Horus Heresy Alpha Legion colors.
Couple of commission jobs.
Yeah, hopefully they get back to their dude soon. We're talking about transfers right now because it's going to be Horus Heresy themed, not 40k, but some of them are 40k models. So we'll see how that goes. Also, you saw I got something in the mail last week after you left.
Oh, what did you get?
You remember you held it in your hand?
I don't recall.
I got a brand new and apparently magnetized Def Dread for my Orc army. And I've been floating the idea of a Def Dread. I'm kind of into it because you know how much I love that new
push the red button, tried that button detachment.
No, that new detachment.
Yeah, that's the one.
Yes, that's the one. I love them stompy boys. I'm an Iron Hand Orc player at heart. Give me the Def Dreads, give me the Killicans, give me the Gorkanauts and the Stompas, and I'm coming at you.
I don't know if you saw, but
get crumped.
Your boy's getting the next codex.
Yes, I was like, oh my gosh, he's gonna talk nonstop about this.
8 detachments coming.
Yeah, really?
8.
I wonder what they're going to be like.
The Tau people are going to be so salty. Oh, I can taste their tears.
Yeah, they've been announcing a bit of Tau, but then in the middle of it, it was just like, bam.
They got 4
CSM codex.
One of them's Kroot. They feel like they got 3. One of mine is going to be Cultists, apparently, so I got 7. I still have twice as many of
They'll take what they can get. They're Tau, after all.
My bits box, I didn't do a ton, but I did go to Hobby Night. That was fun. Painted a Judge Dredd Utilibot. I'm still working my way through the Judge Dredd models and having so much fun because they're so silly.
Head over to the X page, or aka Twitter, to check out any photos of Shane's Judge Dredd models or my 40k models and commissions if you guys are interested in what they look like.
Yeah, at 40k Fanatics on X/Twitter. I kind of feel like that society is moving back to calling it Twitter now. Like everyone knows it's X. Everyone knows it's X, but no one is referencing it as such.
They tried.
The whole of media is referring to it as formerly Twitter.
It's the IHOB situation all over again. You remember IHOB?
No.
IHOB tried to sell burgers and call themselves IHOB for a while.
Oh, International House of Burgers.
Yeah, no one remembers.
I don't think that our international listeners are going to have any idea what we're talking about.
They probably won't.
It's IHOP, the International House of Pancakes, which I believe is only available in like the southeast of the U.S. I don't even think they're totally national.
Isn't it the International House of Pancakes?
I don't think the franchise made it that far.
So what else is going on with you in your bits box, Shane?
I've asked around about how historically accurate to make these bolt action dudes. And I essentially have an army to paint, something like
you can go hard.
40 models. Yeah, you can go super hard. Apparently, you can go so hard as to find places where discussion is happening about comparing paint swatches to like colorized video from World War II and the sort of processes that go into that.
Wow.
And then what the colors would have actually been to the eye.
Jeez.
And then from month to month during the war, that may change as suppliers change and people get that into it. My guys are going to be green in all likelihood. And the Nazis are going to be gray. And that's what they're going to be.
Yeah, because you've basically got a whole army to paint at this point.
Yeah. I got a whole army. I mean, it's not a whole army. It's a starter box. But let's be honest, I can't help myself. I'll probably end up with however many points that you play bolt action at.
Plastic crack for a reason, guys.
Yeah. Yeah, we're gonna take back France.
Is that everything?
I think that's everything.
Closing the bits box. So, Shane, that kind of brings us into our topic for today, doesn't it?
Segway. Look at you. Mall copping around. Turning corners at speed.
I'm Paul Blart in this mother.
That's him.
So, Shane.
Falling down fatly.
I actually really like Kevin James. I've been watching a lot of Adam Sandler movies lately.
I cannot stand that dude.
I love Adam Sandler. He's such a good guy, man.
See, this is your everymanism.
He's such a good guy.
I cannot stand it. He
brings like the same people with him to every movie. He keeps his crew going. That's awesome.
That's all fine. I just wish he didn't play the same idiot in every single movie.
I don't think he plays the same one in every.
Don't at me about his whatever space movie where he's serious.
Adam Sandler is a good actor. Get at him. Go after him. Attack him right now.
Terrible.
I command our fans in the community attack him. So like all 10 of you go.
Today we've got top 5 lists. We've got competing top 5 lists, and boy, do I love a top 5 list.
Oh yeah, he's been talking about it all week. You want to go first?
Well, we got to tell the people what the list is.
Oh yeah, we do.
It's our top 5 army painting tips.
Because Shane has a lot of painting to do because he's getting married.
That's right. Which those two things don't seem to have anything to do with one another, but
rich in love, rich in plastic crack. That's how it goes.
That is true. I did put models on the registry, and our friends did provide. But this is army painting tips, not our top 5 general painting tips. So I make a distinction between painting, batch painting, if you will, army painting, stuff where you've got to do quite a few things, stuff where there are chaff units that nobody's going to look at, versus going full ball sack on, a single character or something like a Marvel Crisis Protocol mini. Skirmish game minis are very different, I believe, in your painting approach than an army. And so we get into our top 5 army painting tips. I don't have any OLIs. And what does OLI stand for, Casey?
I want to say outside looking in.
That's right. It's almost the list, but it doesn't quite make it.
A bonus fry. That's what I called it. Yeah. Let's talk about bonus fries.
So you have a couple OLIs.
And I do not.
Oh, well then what are we doing?
I'm stalling. All right. Do you want to go first or should I?
Well, if you're stalling, that seems to indicate that you want me to go first.
No, I'll go first. I don't care.
I'm going to go first.
Okay, go first.
Number 5. Because we go 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Yes.
So we finish on a flourish. Doesn't it feel flourishy?
At the tippy top of the mountain.
My number 5. Make a plan.
Ooh.
Yes.
It's a good one.
You got to make a plan. It doesn't have to be. So on YouTube, guys talk about, really good painters on YouTube love to talk about how they do a test model or 10 and they write down every step. Now, I'm not a big writey downer. I don't believe you're going to, if I end up with a painting process that has so many steps that I can't remember them, then that's too intricate a plan for an army. Okay. But you do need to have a plan on the general, what is it going to look like? Are these guys going to be fleshy colored? Are they going to be green? Am I going to do metallics or not? How many of everything am I going to paint? What the heck is this army going to be? Is this the entire model range of a faction? Or is this one list that I'm going to do hopefully before the next balance data site comes out?
There you go.
Those are the sort of things that you want to have in your plan when you start. That's my number 5. What's your number 5? My
number 5 would actually be entertainment. I wanted to call it audiobooks, but that's, hand to hand. People have, different interests. The thing is, when you're painting and you're painting a lot of these dudes, it can be very, very, very repetitive. So if you're painting the same model orc over and over and over again, or the same German Nazi soldier like Shane has, or army dude, then you're going to keep painting over and over and over again the same thing. So having something like an audiobook from Black Library, GW, give me free stuff, or just your favorite YouTube videos, or you could pull up Spotify or YouTube and listen to At 40k Fanatics. Just to Nice name drop there, and then play it while you're doing this, because it's going to get time consuming. You need to entertain yourself, and it'll help keep you from getting frustrated and stay relaxed. So that's my number 5.
I like that. I didn't even think about any of that kind of thing, but I like to listen to Cinephobe, which is a movie podcast where they take movies that are poorly rated on Rotten Tomatoes and see if they were properly rated or not.
Oh man, I gotta check that one out.
It's all about some jokes. They do a lot of Jean-Claude Van Damme, spin kicking people in the face. It's really good.
You've got my interest.
They're like 2 hours long. Yeah.
What was that? What's that, Robert?
They did Judge Dredd in there.
What's that Robert DiCaprio meme? You had my attention, or you had my curiosity. Now you have my attention.
My number 4. So again, these are army painting tips, not general, full ball sack painting tips.
Yeah, whole army.
Number 4 is do things you can do. What I mean is, if you have never done a freehand before, it is not the time to learn when you've got to do 50 of them.
There you go.
Don't do that to yourself. Don't come up with this plan that is going to involve processes that you don't know how to do. Maybe try that on a character or two, so that you then end up with these characters that either you mess up and have to start over, and then you revert back to the regular plan, or you end up with some characters that look really, really nice, and now you've got that possibly in your bag for the next time around, or you could go back and start adding that in to the guys that you've already finished. But it is not the time when you're going to do 80 models to say, I'm going to make my first experiment with cross-hatched shading across the entirety of all of these. 1, that would be really hard. And 2, if it's not something you're already good at, I mean, there is an argument that you'll be good at it by the end, but you might kill yourself.
Exactly.
So my personal tip is pick stuff that you can do and just do that. And here's the other thing. By the time you get to the end of that, you're going to be really, really good at those things. And then you might be, for the next project, the next army, the next unit that you add to this thing, you can add other stuff, because whatever processes that you started with are going to be absolutely doing them in your sleep by the time you get to the end. The one for me was painting that gold trim on all the Space Marines. Like just the brush control that
biggest complaint in all CSM players.
Well, I don't even complain. I don't even think about it anymore.
Yeah.
I've gotten to where now that I'm using the airbrush and stuff, I'll end up with
it's rough.
I'll end up having to do the trim twice. Ooh. Because I need to get black to go over the gold.
Yeah.
Or to put gold over. And I mean, it's fast. I'm running and gunning on some trim because I've done 100 of them. But that's my number 4. What's your number 4, Casey?
My number 4 actually kind of lines up with your number 5. Get a notebook. Use it to make a plan, to do your army, figure out how to paint, but also your painting recipes. You got to know how to do your painting recipes. Like, if you just want to do, okay, I'm going to use the same color brown for all my leather. It's great, but if you're a painter like me or Shane, and you've got multiple shades of brown, and you've not really given it much thought, or you've stepped away for like a week because you got busy, and you come back, and you're like, oh, what brown was I using? I still got like 20 of these dudes to do. So having a notebook not only helps you make a plan to move forward into what your painting process will be and expect which models to paint when, it's a time saver, and it helps you avoid mistakes.
So I get a little pushback on that.
Really?
On that particular thing, I have a...
It helps me with skin tones.
Well,
skin tones are like one of the hardest things for people to paint. I use a notebook for skin tones.
Okay, so here's my take on that, because I'm gonna.
But this, oh yeah, army.
You're hold on, you're zigging, I'm zagging. I think that things like your skin tones, your leather colors, stuff like that, I think you want them to be different.
Interesting.
I'm not a big fan of the whole army of clones, right? Obviously,
you are a Star Wars fan,
and yet, big fan of the prequels too. But stuff like Space Marines, where they've got little pouches and things, and you've got helmeted guys, unhelmeted guys. In my case, it's as many unhelmeted guys as I can possibly get. I want all those skin tones to be different because ultimately their armor is going to look like their armor. That's the uniform. The belt, man, one guy might have a green belt. One guy might have a leather belt. One guy may have a dark belt. One guy may have a light belt. All their tabards and whatnot. Rainbow connection. Because I think that gives a little bit of, you can pick up anybody and take a look at them and be like, oh, that's cool. Rather than, I've seen one, I've seen them all. Also, I think that keeps the painting more interesting. You can just decide 8 guys in, you're all out of whatever you mixed up for Caucasian skin tone and be like, you know what? I'm going to do an Indian guy. Let me mix up whatever this is and do the next 5 that way. That's my 2 cents on your number 4.
So what's your number 3?
My number 3 kind of tags on to my point there, which is don't worry about what color is what. So this has got to do a little bit with what I was talking about those World War II things, where you could look at. I was talking to one of the old timers. Shout out to Charlie about this, because he used to play bolt action. He'd go to these tournaments, and he said once a guy showed me a graphic of like 15 swatches, and they were German uniforms from late in the war. And he said it was 15 different shades of nearly identical gray.
Oh my gosh.
And so he said, so I just painted my guys gray. He's like, that's too far. Same thing, like whatever the olive drab green is, my plan is to go get like Vallejo olive drab and then paint some dudes green. Okay? I'll have other points in my number 2 and number 1 that have to do with this, but the idea that you just go and get the ultramarine blue and you paint all your guys as ultramarine blue and then they're ultramarine blue, I think misses a lot of the sort of what am I looking for here? All right, I'm gonna take a step back and I'm gonna run at this barrier. Paint is...
He tripped on the soapbox.
I didn't. But I have a nuanced point to make, and we live on the internet where this is not very allowed. So I'm going to be clear. Paint is a transparent thing. If I paint ultramarine blue onto white, it's a color. If I paint it onto black, it's a color. Therefore, if I zenithal the whole thing, so it goes black to white, then I'm going to get a gradient of color, even if I do 2 thin coats. All right? And they're like, oh, you're just not doing enough coats. You're not getting the color through. All right. Here's another one. If I put it under fluorescent gaming store lights, it's going to be a color. If I put it out in the sunlight, it's going to be a color.
Yep.
The color changes all the time depending on how it is viewed, how it is applied. Therefore, I submit to you, if you were painting ultramarines and you paint them some kind of blue, by the time you put together an army of them, they're going to look like ultramarines. If I do a whole bunch of turquoise or whatever the heck we call the Alpha Legion, by the time they're done, they're going to look like Alpha Legion.
If you knew the lore behind Alpha Legion, you would not agree with that statement.
Hey, is it Alpha Legion in the sunlight? Is it Alpha Legion under a camera flash? Because if we take a photo of both of those and then take our color grabber in Photoshop, it's going to give us 2 different colors.
I am Alfarius. That's all I have to say for all you folks at home listening to this right now.
What I'm saying is, don't get too caught up in what color something needs to be, such as, oh, the in the picture in the book, the leather's all, this particular brown. Don't do that to yourself. Have a little fun with it. It's your army.
Experiment. Play around.
Paint it the way you want. And don't get too worried about it. Don't get too worried about, oh, I'm all out of this white, but I need this white. And just throw some white on wherever it's got to be. Maybe that guy's standing under a tree.
Just a happy little tree.
Just a happy little tree. The happy little 10-foot tall Space Marine.
So on to my number 3, which kind of harps on yours, contrast paints. Contrast paints can be your best friends when it comes to batch painting. Man, oh man, I cannot tell you how many times I've used contrast paints. They flow quick, they dry quick. You can do just about a lot of different degrees. You don't have to stick with the big named Games Workshop brand paint. But contrast paints are a quick way to get all your stuff done. And they flow well with an airbrush. So if you're one of those guys who can afford an airbrush, like Shane, and just steal one from your buddy, you can totally get your army done like super fast.
My financial independence is actually from many years of thievery. No, man, people,
and you can have a lot of fun with contrast paints too.
Yeah.
I mean, we've heard a lot in the past year of what's it called, the slap chop technique, and most of that is all around contrast paints. You can do some cool shit or cool stuff. 36 minutes, mark it, Shane.
Yeah, let me mark that.
I love seeing people take contrast paints, mixing them together to make power effects, electric effects, or maybe even cape and filigree. It looks great.
I think that at once the community is too far in and too far out on contrast paints. And let me explain why, because we have plenty of time today.
We do.
There's one camp that's like, contrast paints are easy mode and I don't use them because, PC Master Race type thinking.
Gatekeeping.
Yeah, well, it's just like, I used to use contrast paints until I got good and now I don't touch them.
Yeah.
Then the other side is all they use is contrast paints and all their models look a little dull. Now,
you can make them look better, but we're talking about army
sure.
painting.
Here's my point is you got to use both. People are the people that like to base and layer are sleeping on the contrast paints for things like leather, capes, little nonsense like all the little elbow joints and stuff on their Space Marines. Man, contrast paint is just chef's kiss, lovely. And for fleshy type units, especially things like looking at you, Chaos Cultists.
Yeah.
You prime those things lightly colored, grab any old contrast flesh tone, throw it on,
You're done.
Most of the work is done. And then
20 models gone.
Here's the secret. You go back with your regular old colors and highlight that stuff all the way up, and it looks incredible.
Contrast paints work, and when you're batch painting an army, it saves you time and your sanity.
They work so good. I tell you what they work so good on.
Panel lining. People love panel lining. There you go.
Out of here with that.
I know. Still.
I see your panel lining, and I raise you pants.
Pants. The pants.
Contrast paint the pants. Listen to me now. Believe me, later on, after you have a whole army with lovely looking pants that you did absolutely nothing else to, because you're not highlighting up the pants because they're at the bottom of the model in the first place. They're going to be a color. It's going to have some depth of color. It's going to be interesting. And you'll have spent 4 seconds making pants happen. Pants.
On one model out of 20 that no one's going to see.
They're so good for that.
Exactly. So
I think we should rename contrast paints as pants paints. It's going to have a strange meaning in the UK where they come from.
Oh, yeah, you're right.
But it's what they're best at.
Would it be no, it'd be pants. No, it'd be underpants. Which way does it go?
Pants mean crap. If you say something is pants, that means it's crap. So,
but they also say that if they're in their underwear, they're in their pants. Okay. I don't know why it's confusing me just now. Anyways, your number 2, sir.
My number 2 ties in a little bit to what you're saying.
Pants.
Number 2 is undercoat all you can. So, one of the best ways to honestly paint anything, if you're able, is with an airbrush. Because the base coating just happens. You're able to put values on things without ever having to blend one thing into another thing. And so, whether you're contrast painting, whether you're painting regular, whether you have an airbrush, undercoating is crucial, in my opinion, to getting good results fast. If all you do is zenithal from the top of the rattle can, you still get some information about what the light should be doing, and also saving yourself from having to build up from black. All right? I always prime everything black, with exception of stormtroopers. I do those in white. I've actually started to do them in gray, and then I go white, and then they're done. But the zenithal is huge, and the undercoat is huge. You can do a zenithal, then grab your white, and then just block out big, chunky highlights all over the place. And that's going to help your contrast paints. It's going to inform your regular paints. It's also going to help those paints too, because you can thin them down and still see your undercoat through them. And you're going to get a lot of bang for your buck on some pretty sloppy airbrushing / paint stroking. So that's a step that you can put in your plan that isn't going to add a lot of time, but I think is going to have an exponential effect on the overall look of an army. Undercoating, my number 2.
My number 2 would have to be dry brushing. It goes without saying, dry brushing is one of the easier ways to do this. And like Shane says, undercoating with black is very, very common, very useful, and very helpful. If you go in, you can dry brush, and maybe you can throw some contrast paints. It's an easy way to add a little bit more detail to your most basic units. And also, you'll learn how to use your hands better. Your hand control will definitely increase. Your eye-to-hand ratio, whatever it's called, it's going to get increased, mostly with dry brushing, because when you're going through 30, 40 orcs, dry brushing green on over and over and over again, you're going to get better. So,
yeah, I mean, and so the dry brushing thing is always a win. You can do it straight over the black primer, and it's an undercoat like I'm talking about.
Yeah.
You can do it over the finished model for an automatic highlight situation. Just be sure not to leave very much paint on that joker, or you will be starting from scratch.
Oh, yeah.
It always looks good to dry brush a little silver over some metal after you've put a wash on it, for instance, to just bring some shine back. The dry brushing is always strong, and it's quick. You don't need to dry brush up under their scrotes. You just don't.
You don't.
Skip it. When we're talking about painting an army, we are not talking about every single model being photograph close-up ready. They're trying to look good from standing over them on the table.
Do it for the gram.
That means heads, shoulders, weapons. Those are the points that you're focusing on. We're not worried about feet. We're not worried about back of the knee. We're up to my number 1.
What's your number 1, Shane?
My number 1 army painting tip.
Drum roll.
Set an expectation on the front end. So this is one of those where, you know, perfect is the enemy of good, right? The other thing that perfect is the enemy of finishing the damn thing.
Oh, yeah.
So you must decide, I think, before you even start, how good is this going to look? How good am I capable of making it look? If you run back down the top 5 list, you get, make a plan, do stuff you can do, da-da-da. If you've done all those things, the last thing that I think you need to do, and the most important, is decide where the stopping point is going to be. Because you could theoretically paint every single little cultist, little grot to the highest level that anyone's ever seen. But you will die before you get it done if every single one takes 100 hours.
Yep.
It just won't work. Like, you'll physically run out of time. So you have to say, I've done these steps. I've come out with a model that has paint on it. What does that look like? That is the standard for this army. And I think that if you decide that on the front end, you can avoid a whole lot of hand-wringing on the back end, or in the middle when you're doing some, not every model is going to fit your eye. Like I struggle with the vehicles.
Pinging, shash ringing, slasher.
I struggle with the vehicles. I don't like to do them.
Ugh.
But I decide that they're going to look something like this.
Yeah.
And then once I get them there, that's where I stop. At some point, maybe I'll get better at painting vehicles and I'll increase that standard. But that's where they go. And they fit in fine.
Your vehicles look good.
They fit in fine in the context of the rest of it.
Yep. Tells a story.
That's right. What's your number one, Casey?
My number one would be brushes. Now, mainly I want to stress medium and large brushes, because you don't want to be that guy who is painting 20 plus models.
Tiny brush guy?
With small, fine layer brushes. We've hit on this in the past. So, Shane, I know you're an advocate for the large brush team.
Yeah, so, this is a good number one.
Yeah. I knew you'd love it.
Yeah, this is a good number one, because this is like, if you've never painted an army before, you're going to learn.
Use a fat brush.
Get the biggest brush you can stand.
Yeah. And even if you do lose a little bit of details, use a medium layer brush.
Yeah, there's some other...
You're not going to do anything too intricate.
There's some other things here, right?
Yeah.
If you're doing big cloaks, just gob that stuff on. Oh, it got on their hands. Oh, so?
Thin your paint, slap it on.
You're going to paint hands in a minute.
Yeah.
It's fine.
Fix it later.
Fix it later. Just get the biggest brush you can stand and then grab one larger than that for anything that doesn't just require the very tip of the brush. Here's another thing. Load your damn brush up, because I see people just get like this teensy dry dot of paint on the end of their brush, and then they're almost like stabbing to just get it off of there.
I know who you're talking about.
And they end up with, the homie Valerie paints like this because she's new and doesn't know any better.
Yeah.
But she gets this teensy little bit of paint on the end of her brush, and by the time she's done, like, there's almost a pointillism, sort of like almost an oil paint look to the models, where it's just, you can tell where the dot of paint was deposited and then another dot of paint was grabbed and stuck on there.
She's going for pointillism.
It's not what she's meaning to go for, but she doesn't know any better. So load that thing up with water, dab on your napkin, and then put it in the paint halfway at the bristles. Just get it up in there. Trust me, it's going to feel like a lot.
Your brushes will thank you.
Your brushes will thank you. Yeah, let me tell you, nothing messes the tip of a brush up worse than trying to dab that little teensy bit of paint off either. Yeah. So then people end up in this vicious cycle, right?
Yeah.
Where they're like, my tip keeps coming apart.
Drives you crazy.
Why is it doing that? I must need a smaller brush.
And the layer brushes are so good because you look at them and then you're just like, oh, I got to paint his face. Maybe do a dot on his eye. Like, you don't need much to do anything. And if you do a little bit of a good job with the layer brush, you're going to be way better 20 models down the line with a small brush. And you're like, here's my character. I have to paint him now. I have to paint his eyes. I have to make his battle scars. I have to make his hair and everything look nice. And your hands will communicate so well. So bigger brushes for your badge painting, guys.
We're all out of time. We went way over. Get in the comments on this video and the last few, and we'll see you next time.
See ya. Stay fanatical.